Hey everyone, I'm Debjani, and I'm excited to speak to you today about money matters and managing your product's finances. A bit about me. I am currently a product lead at Stripe, where I lead a PM team in Stripe's risk org. Prior to this, I stood up Stripe's foreign exchange business line, and I also have a bunch of expertise in product pricing, market expansion, and landing strategic user deals. Before Stripe, I was a PM at Microsoft, where I primarily focused on enterprise products, and I also expanded an enterprise product to the education market segment. In my experience, I have seen the strategic benefit of a PM being able to understand and rationalize the financial health of their product. So today, I look forward to sharing some key concepts, tips, and takeaways with you. PMs take on a wide array of responsibilities to make their product successful. It is truly a multifaceted role. You may have seen some version of this Venn diagram before. PMs kind of sit at the intersection of users, technology, business, and the organization. From the perspective of managing your product's finances, that business and org piece becomes really, really important. Now, most PM's charters actually include the user and the tech pieces, and to some extent, the organizational alignment piece as well. But the extent to which a PM focuses on the business side of things really varies. And it depends on the kind of product the PM is responsible for. Is it a revenue generating product or not? The organizational culture, are PMs generally held accountable for business outcomes, as well as the PM's seniority? So, given the variability, I am hoping that this session can also serve as a primer of the things you need to know to be successful as you lean more into the business side of product management. Well, one of the key things you need to know is who are your stakeholders. And it's different than the usual suspects of engineering and design and data science and user research. So, let me walk you through who some of your key partners are. First is finance strategy. This function may be called something different in various companies. So some companies call it financial planning. They sit under the chief financial officer, and you should think of them as your best friends when it comes to managing your product's finances. They bring deep expertise in data, accounting, and modeling the commercial viability of your investments, all in spreadsheets. You'll work together to kind of build your product's P&L or profit and loss statement, something we'll talk about in depth in just a sec, to measure ROI of your investments, to ensure efficient resource allocation, and to track progress. Also, if there's monthly or quarterly business reviews with leadership, you'll go up together to represent the trends in your product. Next, we have go-to-market. Here, I include the sales org and the marketing org. They are essential partners in commercializing your product. So you've built the product, but now you actually need to sell it, and they help you do so. They help with customer segmentation, crafting a user-facing narrative for your features and products. They help with campaigns, as well as sourcing and landing user deals and keeping your users happy. They also serve as a great source of input for what should go on your roadmap. Next is corporate development. I'm using this term as a bit of a catch-all for all of the folks at the company that serve as a liaison between your organization and external organizations. Sometimes PMs will work with corporate development on strategic external partnerships, opportunities for mergers and acquisitions, and opportunities for inorganic growth. Sometimes your product might rely on third-party vendors. So these teams will also help you evaluate your vendor options, draft up those deals, and ensure that those arrangements are commercially viable. Next, we have pricing teams. Increasingly, companies will have dedicated teams that help with pricing. They are experts in understanding a customer's willingness to pay and industry benchmarks, and you'll work with them to set your product's fees and fee structure and update them over time. Finally, I have this group here of treasury, tax, and compliance. So as a PM, you need to be really aware of your product's impact on the company's cash flows, tax implications, and regulatory requirements, which could very well have an impact on your product's profitability. Okay, with that, we'll start talking about the star of this show, which is the profit and loss statement, or the P&L. I grabbed some examples of the P&L from the internet, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's a bunch of numbers on the page, and it comes in many different formats. But the thing I want you to take away is once you understand the sections that go into the P&L, the numbers start making sense. And don't worry too much about the formats because that really depends on the stylistic preference of the person who built this P&L. So what is the structure of a P&L? Well, simply, it is this. First is the revenue, which is all of the money that's flowing into your business, which could be from usage fees, from subscription fees, from other sources of income. Then you have the costs, which is all of the money that's leaving your business. And these could be expenses directly related to your product or expenses more generally related to running the business. And then you subtract the cost from the revenue. And if you're left with a positive number, that's profit, a negative number, that's loss. Another important thing to keep in mind is a time period. And this is important so that you can look at the P&L over various periods of time to see how your business is growing. So let's get really concrete. We've made up a company here called Analytics with an X, and we're going to walk through Analytics's P&L. So this is Analytics's company profile. They have two products, a data processing product and a report generation product, and they have a bunch of costs. Cloud infrastructure, data storage, customer support, research and development, sales and marketing, and general administrative costs. This is what Analytics' P&L looks like for financial year 2023. Now, what we'll do is now build this P&L up section by section, and hopefully you'll see that a P&L tells this great story about the flow of money through your business. So let's jump in. So first you have the revenue section, and this is called the top line. As discussed, Analytics has two business lines, the data processing product and the report generation product. So for the data processing product, on line 2, you have the total data processing volume from users. On line 3, that's the fees that users paid per unit. So multiplying both, you have the total data processing revenue on line 1. Similarly, for the report generation business, you have the total number of reports that were generated by users on line 5, the fees paid per unit on line 6. Multiplying both gives you the total report generation revenue on line 4. You add the revenue for both these business lines and you have the total revenue, which is 11 million. Now we'll go into costs. There are many different kinds of costs. We'll start with COGS, or cost of goods sold, which is the costs directly related to building and serving your product. In the case of Analytics, that includes cloud infrastructure, data storage, and customer support. And you can see that that adds up to 4.5 million. Subtract the 4.5 million from the total revenue on line 7, and that gives you the profit, specifically the gross profit, as you can see on line 12, which is 6.5 million. And it also gives you on line 13 the gross profit margin, which is the gross profit divided by the total revenue into 100. Now, there's many different levels of profit. Gross profit is one of them, and these levels depend on which costs you have considered. So long as you've only considered the direct costs related to the product, and you've kind of ignored all other costs related to running the business, that's the gross profit, which you see on line 12 there. As a side note, as a SaaS company, which is what Analytics is, the industry benchmark for gross profit margin is something around 80%. But this is a made-up company, so we'll just run with it. Okay, next we look at another kind of cost, which is called operating expenses, or OPEX. These are the costs more generally related to running your business and not specifically related to producing goods. And so for Analytics, that includes research and development, sales and marketing, and general administrative costs. In total, it adds up to, as you can see on line 14, 3.3 million. So you subtract the 3.3 million from the gross profit, and that leaves you with the operating profit of 3.2 million and an operating margin, which is the operating profit divided by the total revenue, of 29.10%. There are some other expenses as well. I've kind of lumped it all together in total miscellaneous expenses in line 20. This typically includes things like taxes and interest. And so you subtract that from the operating profit, and that gives you the net profit, which in this case for Analytics is 2.7 million. And it also gives you the net margin, which is the net profit divided by the total revenue. Now, the net profit is called the bottom line of the company. So as you can see here, the money kind of started in the top line, flowed through the different cost buckets, and ended up at the bottom line here. As a PM, you are most focused on the product side of things. So what does that mean with respect to a P&L? Well, you can think of an imaginary line kind of cutting through the P&L below gross profit. And everything that's above the line is directly related to the product. So it's the revenue that the product or products are bringing in, and it's the costs directly related to the product. And so this is your realm of control, your realm of influence, and things that you can optimize. Things below the line are more generally about the business. And so, of course, you should be aware of it, but your ability to influence it will be limited. And so when we talk about PMs being accountable for a P&L, it's usually this above the line section that they are responsible for. We also previously touched on why time periods are so important. So here you can see the financial year 2023 P&L next to the financial year 2022 P&L, and you can see the year-over-year effects. So looking at it here, you actually observe that the report generation business is actually not doing so well. In fact, the revenue has decreased since financial year 2022. And looking at it more, you can see that that's not because the number of reports generated have reduced. In fact, that's increased. But it seems that the fees per unit has reduced, maybe because a lot of discounts were given to customers. And so this would be an area where the analytics team kind of really digs in and makes sure that the softness in the business is mitigated. On the other hand, the data processing business seems to be doing really well. It has a 14.5% of year-over-year growth. And here again, the analytics team is going to want to dig in and see what the core drivers are and kind of what other opportunities for improvement are. And so digging into the more granular business metrics can actually tell you about the underlying dynamics that are rolling up into the P&L and give you a data-centric way to know where to deploy product, go-to-market, and corporate development initiatives. Here, you can see that the analytics team has sliced their overall data processing revenue by contributing region. So APAC is Asia Pacific, EMEA is Europe, Middle East, and Africa, LATAM is Latin America, and NA is North America. And through looking at this chart, you can see that APAC is clearly the strongest market and is growing the best. North America and LATAM are kind of flat. North America seems to be trending up. And EMEA seems to be quite volatile. It dipped quite a bit in Q4 and then seems to be rising again a little bit from Q3 2023. So these are areas where the team is going to go dig in and see, well, what are the drivers in the APAC region that make the product such a good fit? And can it be replicated in other markets? What are the issues in EMEA and how do we fix those? So far, we have spoken about tracking the performance of a business as it happens. But another key part of managing your product's finances is being able to plan and forecast the performance of your business into the future. So let's say 1 year later. To do this, you are going to work closely with your finance strategy partner to kind of size the impact of various product initiatives, as well as evolving market dynamics as it relates to your business. One really great way to visualize the impact on various factors of where you are today and where you expect to be a year from now is a waterfall chart. So in this waterfall chart, you can see you start with the profits, the gross profit in 2023, which is 6.5 million. And each of these bars represent a positive or negative factor that affects your profit, which ultimately brings you to the expected profit of 8 million in 2024. And you'll also notice that the termination point of a bar is kind of the starting point of the next bar. So this serves as this visual cue that creates a sense of continuity, and it looks a bit like a bridge. And so this chart is also called the bridge chart. So let's cross the financial bridge for analytics. So we start with our profit in 2023, which is 6.5 million. You've worked with finance strategy and you've sized up that organic growth is going to give you 1 more million of profit. Great. You're building a new premium reporting product. This is a new product, but should add some incremental profit. You've identified that there is a latent, strong demand for your products in the healthcare industry. So you're working with your sales and marketing counterparts for a concerted push towards this industry, which will give a huge boost to your profit. At the same time, you've learned from your sales partners that there is a strategic user that will churn next year. So this will hurt your profit. That's a negative bar there. Your data storage costs are increasing, more reduction in profits. You've heard strong feedback from your customers that customer support needs to get better, and you're investing in that in a big way, but this is increased costs. So that hurts your profit. But at the same time, you're automating certain customer service workflows, so that should give you back a bit more of the profits. And finally, you have this large deal in play with your cloud infrastructure provider to give analytics a fair amount of discount. So this should help your profit and ultimately land you at 8 million in 2024. Once you've set this budget, as you track your P&L, you're always going to be comparing the actuals with the expectation. Okay, we're close to the end of this webinar, so I want to leave you with a few tips for balancing product with profitability. The first is that you should align being users first with business outcomes. At the end of the day, PMs are the voice of the customer, and it's prudent not to make short-term business decisions that's going to hurt the user experience or the user sentiment towards your product. Because the user will then just leave, they're going to churn, and this is going to hurt the business long-term. So for example, if you're thinking of increasing the fees in your product, you should do user research and see the features that the users are willing to pay for and how much they're willing to pay. If from that research you find that there is headroom to increase fees, great. If you find otherwise, you should reconsider that pricing initiative. Next is to avoid having siloed views of your P&L. So earlier we saw the analytics company P&L that included two products in it. In reality, each product is probably going to have its own PM or PM team that's focused on the dedicated P&L for that product. It's prudent for those product teams to not do things that hurts other products in the same company. So for example, the report generation group is building that new premium reporting product. That should not inadvertently take usage away from the data processing business. And so you need to work with your other product partners at the company to make sure that the company's business overall remains healthy. Cultivate strong cross-functional relationships. I mean, this is general advice for a PM. PMs should always have strong cross-functional relationships. But with regard to the stakeholders we spoke about earlier, PMs need to be able to speak their language and understand their incentives. They are also an excellent source of input to your roadmap. Your finance strategy partner, go-to-market partners, and corporate development partners can say what strategic customers are asking for in one-on-one meetings, where the industry is headed, what industry experts are saying, what competitors are building. And together, this helps you pull together a roadmap that not only meets the user need, but also meets the business need for your company. So with that, I hope this session was helpful to you, and thank you for listening. Bye.